All right, everybody. Hello. It is Sunday night, 7 o'clock. So, you know what that means. It's time for the Diamond Roundup. Sam Torres here with Anthony Hartwig, and we are joined by the coach, Gary Niddle, jumping in on the Diamond Roundup this evening. Gary, how you doing, coach?
Gary lost audio, I think. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I
Okay.
can't hear him. All right. Well, we try and figure out what's going on with Coach Gary. Anthony, how'd the week of softball and baseball treat you this week?
It was rainy a lot of the time, and we got what 3 solid days of softball and baseball in. So, spoiler alert: our power rankings are going to be hit and miss because there's some teams that unfortunately couldn't play, and if you don't play any games, you're not going to get any points in the power rankings. So there's
Yeah,
a
we
big
had all
shakeup.
kinds.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, all kinds of jumps this week. We had some teams that are making their debut into the top three. We've got some teams that got bumped out of the top three over on both the baseball and the softball side. We had a really a very close finish on the softball side in particular. I know the point difference in that one was, I think you said like 1.5 points separating one versus two. But rain again, it plays a huge part in teams getting games in, and obviously, if it's playing a huge part in teams getting games in, then it's going to play a huge part in points. And as we're going to talk about that later in the show. So today's show, we're going to go through the scoreboard like we normally do. We're going to jump into the power rankings. We're going to go into our starting nine that we go into every week. And then we're going to start talking some tournament play because the seedings have been released, and we've got seedings out, and we've got games actually that are coming up tomorrow. Coach, are you there?
I'm here.
Let's go.
I couldn't hear it. I heard the intro and then it just went on me. So I saw the mouse moving and I'm like, I'll try to reboot here. We'll come back in. I am here now. I don't know what I missed, but I'm sure I missed a lot of good fun stuff to get us introduced tonight.
We were just talking about all the rain this week, Coach, and it felt like last year all over again.
You don't need to tell us as coaches. I mean, it's been and it's still happening tonight. I've been on the phone. We got league makeups early this week, so games are getting bumped, and we were supposed to play Salem tomorrow, which has been like we can't get this game done. So they got a makeup game with West Branch, so we're going to try to move that to Tuesday. It's not fun for ADs. I talked to DJ about this earlier last week. Spring sports is miserable. For ADs, for baseball coaches, softball coaches, and Mother Nature wins, and undefeated can't beat Mother Nature, and no matter what you try. So we just do the best we can.
Coach, I would like to hear kind of from your perspective, actually, as so tournament seedings are out. We are, just like every year, Northeast Ohio right up against it, trying to make up all these games. What are some of the things that kind of go into your thought process with the team and the tournament coming up? Does the tournament outweigh the conference? Does the conference outweigh the tournament? Obviously you're going to take a conference game over a non-conference game, I would think at this time. But, when you're talking tournament versus conference game, especially with arms, what goes on with you as a coach?
That's a great question. And it's something I don't have to worry about this year. We locked up our conference championship on Friday. We do have Boardman left on Wednesday, but, now our focus moves to districts. But yeah, it's tough. I know Boardman, for instance, if, had we split with Fitch, it would have come down to this Boardman game. Boardman still has to make up 2 games with Howland. They have one with us and they have one with Warren Hardy, and they're going to play them all this week. So, we talked after our game at Fitch in the right field, in the outfield, and we had this discussion. For us, a conference championship means a lot to us. So that's number one on our list. Then we move on to district. But it's really tough when you get into that situation where you got to line up. I think it flips a little bit. I mean, it really kind of depends on what kind of team you have. If you're geared for a run, I think you got to gear it toward the tournament. if you don't have those arms, and it's special to, I think you really got to ask the kids too, and just be upfront. We've had that, what's more important to you guys? And for our guys, it's always been, tournament. If it came down to it, let's get our arms lined up for the tournament. But I think it's different for everyone. It really is. It's difficult.
Gary, baseball tournament is a week away, so you're not dealing with this yet. But softball, for example, this week, they're going to have tournament games and regular season games going on in the same week, and they'll play one day, maybe a tournament game, and then, hey, we still have to fit, our conference game into this to decide a conference champion. What do you think that's like, trying to juggle that and trying to keep that tournament mindset, but also realize, like, we still have conference games to play, and we still have to finish our regular season too?
I think you're kind of talking about Fitch Canfield.
I think so. Just a little bit.
That's crazy. That's a unique situation. I happened to be there, and the game got paused. And I know some of you guys were talking about what happened as a result. And I think it's unfair. And this happened with football. And I see this happen all the time. And when I talk to DJ about stories, hearing one side and then hearing another side of why that game wasn't played the next day. Well, it was agreed on by both coaches, and because they wanted their best pitchers out there, and both of them wouldn't have been out there. That's the story that I've heard from both sides, which makes a lot of sense. If you've played 10 innings and you want your best to be out there and, not go to your second, third, whatever it's going to be, I can see that, and I think that's a fair, everyone's like, well, they should just play at Fitch or they should play here. But until you really hear both sides and understand what's at large there. Now it gets crazy because I guess they're looking at playing Saturday. At least that's the rumor, that I've been hearing coming up. I don't know. And that's going to come into play there, Anthony, with what is more important now. Tournament, with their buys, both teams getting a bye. And, I don't think they're going to have a whole lot of trouble. I mean, I'm knocking on wood here in the sectional. But it does get dicey, and it's, you do got to make those choices. Softball's a little different than baseball, just because you can run out that same arm a lot more than you can baseball. You're limited with pitch counts and so forth with baseball. But, softball's a little unique with that. But I wouldn't want to be in that position.
It isn't unique, but there isn't limits. And it's for those people that don't know, Melina Toth and Sydney Watts both had over 160 pitches when that game was stopped in the 10th inning. So you would have been asking them to come back the next day, finish that game for who knows how long that's going to keep going for.
Correct.
And then play another game right on top of that. That's a lot to ask, even of a softball player that is, not as worried about pitch count as maybe a baseball pitcher.
Correct. And that was, because I know Canfield was getting the bad rap early. I think even in our chat, it was coming up, and I was kind of trying to defend both sides. Like, it's not all Canfield. It was kind of agreed on by both sides. That was my understanding, and kudos to both coaches, because you do want your best out there. You don't want to, heck, 10 innings of great baseball, softball, and then, then try to play, and who knows how long that first game might go too.
I know. Now they're going to come back all fresh. It might be another 7-inning game,
got another game on top of that. So I don't know. I'll tell you what, it was an electric environment. I can tell you that. It was really cool to see.
And joining us again this week is our man, the main man, Ty Bartell. Ty, how's it going? How did the baseball and softball rainy week treat you this week?
I mean, we got as much as we could get in, right? And I mean, it was pretty much the extent of this conversation. We got to see one of Division I's best go up against one of Division II's best. Both of those teams have chances to make a state title run. We also have some teams in Division III that are looking to make a state title run. And I mean, it all really begins starting tomorrow for a lot of these teams too. And even what I saw in Division IV too, and when you were out there the other day too, that Western Reserve McDonald matchup, heck, we might have some teams in Division IV that have a chance to make a little bit of a run themselves as well. But this path starts tomorrow, and that's what's the exciting part of it too, is that with all the talent that we have in this area too, some of these sectional final matchups can even get pretty interesting too. And then especially going forward, I can't wait for the postseason to start.
Yeah, that's one of the beauties about, baseball and softball. Even if we don't get these, these regular season matchups, these prime times, these ones that we all want to see, at some point, as long as both of those teams are playing up to their potential, we're going to get it because there's only one road and everybody's got to take the same one. And, as long as you're in the same division, obviously you're going to see it. But, that's what I think we're looking at here. And, one of the things I was thinking about as these tournament seedings come out, and there are tons of makeup games still happening. You've got conference championship games coming up. You've got games that are, the longest softball game on earth, as it is still technically active, going on right now. And, you don't necessarily see the injuries as much in baseball and softball, but it's got to be something you would think that, coaches have to be thinking about, right? Because, you lose, particularly in baseball or softball, you lose that big arm, the entire identity of your team can change.
I mean, I'll take this one first, and it happens more often than you think in baseball. You just don't get to see it out there. Marlington's probably one of the best pitchers in the state. Gelding isn't going to be able to pitch in the tournament. He's going to have surgery, and that's a huge loss for Marlington. He's going to University of Kentucky. Ourselves, we haven't had Connor Miller, who's going to be our number one all year. Now, he did get released, and he's coming back, and he's throwing. He was going to throw tomorrow against Salem, but that's going to get moved to Tuesday. So, we're pretty excited on that front. But there's been a lot of arms, talking, going through in pitch counts. I was talking to Salem's coach today with like Carson Rhodes, who's going to Virginia Tech, is you really got to limit pitch counts. You got to watch for dead arms. You got, especially the ones that are committed. Some of these college coaches don't want to see them. We saw that with Gavin Bruni a couple years ago when he was at Alliance. And, it definitely, you mentioned it, in baseball, you see it a lot, with the situation with arms. You got to be careful. It's a long season. And, a lot of these guys did a lot of fall ball and a lot of, coming off of a summer, and they don't get that time off. So you see it mostly with pitchers' arms. In baseball, you don't see, a freak incident here and there could happen. But on the baseball front, it's definitely taking care of your arms throughout the whole season, not overworking somebody, building up the arms and going from there. But yeah, it gets tough, when you're trying to get 5-6 games in 1 week with tournament and league play and so forth. And you got to be real careful there.
Can we take a minute to talk about this idea from Tommy Watts and what like in the first game in a tie and just play the second one for the conference championship?
I don't mind that if it comes down to those two teams either, too, because I mean, like we said, we can go 17, 18 innings with that last game, too. And it's like you could be realistically trying to fit 2 games in one. Yeah, I mean, honestly, you want that game to end in like an inning or 2. That's the hope. But with the 2 arms that they're going to be throwing, there's no guarantee that that's even going to happen. So it could be just back and forth softball for another few innings. So I feel like if we're looking in the interest of trying to get less games in or trying to lessen the load of games that we need to take in the regular season with the tournament, that might be an idea to look for, definitely, especially if both coaches agree upon it.
Let's just have a skills competition in the first game.
Listen, I'll tell you what, one of the things we always talk about with these games that are back to back to back, and like Coach was talking about, you got some of these teams trying to get like 6 games in, back to back to back with no rest. We always talk about pitchers. We always talk about their arms and the load that they're going to bear. There's a position I think that gets overlooked when you're playing those many games and those long games, and that's the catcher. Like the catcher, you're squatting, and I don't, some teams are blessed with multiple catchers, but not many. And to have a catcher, down there, I mean, it gets to be a lot, I would think. I didn't play catcher because I saw how long they had to squat, and I'm not wearing all that equipment. But I know that, when you're playing back-to-back games, I've seen, both on the baseball and the softball side, these kids go out there and they are really getting their butt kicked back there.
That's a great comment, and in our case and in Fitch's case last year, Joe Roth, I mean, he did it behind the plate. He did it on the mound. And I've never been in that situation until this year, with Michael Patelis for us, who catches, and he's thrown a lot for us. It does take a toll on the ones that do both, which is rare. And, I know this week we're definitely going to be giving him some rest, and we do have another catcher that will be catching. They're going to rotate, and take some time off going into next week. But you also got to be careful there. Is you take too much time off, with the weather and the rain and so forth, you get out of a rhythm. So there is no great answer. I can't. Everyone asks, "Oh, it's so easy to be a coach." You know what? I could write down 50 things that you're going to get second guessed on. And I said, and if you're one of those people that can't take getting second guessed, then don't get into coaching, because you could sit here all day and just your mind goes crazy.
It's kind of like being an umpire. You're only right to 50% of the people. But let's jump into some of these scores this week, as this one should be a little bit quicker than last week, because we got a grand total of about 3 days of scores to go through this week. And we are going to start on Thursday, as that's when the first game started happening this week. Over here on the baseball side, you have Columbiana going 7-1 over East Palestine. The big one, this was the matchup everybody was watching, the Canfield-Fitch game, and boy, do we got a nice perspective this week, as Coach Niddle had a behind-the-scenes look and a direct impact on this game. Coach, talk a little bit about this game.
I talked to Coach Paris, and I the last 4 years, the year pre-COVID up until now, every game we have played with Fitch has been one of these type of games. It's a one-run game. You can throw the records out, you can throw the divisions out. Our kids compete, and their kids compete, and you're in for a dogfight. It doesn't matter who's on the mound. It doesn't matter what umpires you get. It's going to be a 1-2 run game, and it's electric. I've used that word a couple times, but that environment at Fitch was electric with softball and baseball, just everything, the meaningfulness of those games and the facilities. You know what you're going to get, and I can sit here and talk for 20 minutes. I don't want to fill and waste time, but, if you don't have that opportunity, if you're in a small conference or whatever, and I know, and I've coached in small conferences, but if you get an opportunity to kind of go out and check out some of these like bigger games and the venues and so forth, and, it has that college feel. You see all the fans there, and you got, it's cool. It's really cool. And there's passionate on both sides, and the kids play their butts off. And, we had 2 nights in a row. I know you didn't get to Friday yet, but, both 1-run games and both were phenomenal. We lucked out, this year and came out on top. Last year we were on the losing side, so it was nice to kind of get back. But, I highly recommend, in years to come, check out the Fitch game, because you will definitely enjoy yourself.
Gary, I want to ask about Jamison Beck, because it wasn't your conventional no-hitter, but a no-hitter nonetheless. And what did you see from him in this big game against Fitch on Thursday?
We had to do nominations for Players of the Week for like PBR and these different organizations. And I wrote up a huge article on Jamison, because to go into Fitch and pitch at Fitch with that crowd and that team and everything that was going on that night, and then to go out, only have 1 walk. He did hit somebody, and then the balk, it's going to be called the balk, which I'm not even going to get into. What there. I will tell you this, and I'm going on the record. I pulled the rule book out, and DJ saw that there was a commercial break. I was correct, and I showed both umpires that they were incorrect with the balk call, and we'll kind of leave it at that. But Jamison, coming into this year, we've had discussions that we lost a lot of Division I. We had pitching for game, and we had a big target on our back last year. Everyone's like, Canfield's going to be down. They lose all their arms. We have faith in our guys, and we have faith in Jamison Beck. He's now thrown 36 innings for us. He has a 1.4 ERA, and he's going up against everybody's number 1. And he's come a long way, and he's earned what he's got. And, this isn't his first, great effort. He's had multiple ones this year. He's gone 5-1 for us. So I can't say enough about Jamison and where he's, he stepped into that number 1 role with Connor Miller being out. So hats off to him.
I also want to give props to that next score too, Sam, and that's an Archbishop Hoban beating a really, really good university school, and they went into extras, and that one was a dogfight too.
What's crazy is that Fitch Canfield game that everyone's talking about on the softball side wasn't even the longest game of the night because Hoban went 11.
And I mean, coming on top of that one too, that university school is beating of the likes of some of the biggest schools in the area as well, and they're not to be messed around with. That's a big win for the Hoban Knights, no doubt.
You'll see both.
Yeah,
those
University School is one of those teams. They have really made a name for themselves in the last couple years in every sport. In every year, when you look on that schedule and you see University, I'm sure coaches are like, "All right, here we go."
When you look at his name's Evan Shapiro for University School. If you haven't checked him out on the mound. Phenomenal, a freak. So those two are going to be battling it out in that bracket.
Welcome to Division I baseball, right? Like that's what you got a battle going into it.
Louisville, I talked to all those coaches today that moved up that were in our division. And I said, good luck, guys.
So some great games going on right there on Thursday. And you know what? We needed that, folks, because I'm telling you, there's an empty feeling in everybody's gut when you go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and the ball hasn't been thrown. So, everybody wants to see it. And Thursday definitely answered the call. Moving on over to Brookfield, falling to Garrettsville, Garfield there, 19-0. Cambridge going to go 4-2 over Edison. Newton Falls getting a win over Campbell Memorial, 7-0. Crestview and Champion. This was another game that a lot of people kind of had circled as those two teams were on a crash course for each other. Crestview getting the W there, 3-1. Southern Local going to get one over Jefferson County Christian, 7-2. Warren JFK takes a loss late in the season here. Lake Center Christian. JFK was really on a roll going into this game.
That is a really good Lake Center Christian team too, and I mean you can expect to see that Lake Center Christian team knocking on a lot of Division IV doors going into this tournament as well. They're going to be a tough out, no doubt, but I think that's the kind of competition JFK is looking to play before the start of the tournament, trying to make another run for themselves.
Agreed.
Moving on over to West Branch and Salem. You got West Branch coming out on top, 5-0. Lisbon going 12-0 over Youngstown East. McDonald goes 10-0 over Mineral Ridge. South Range and Struthers, because the NE8 doesn't do anything easy. 7-6 there.
That's what NE stands for. Nothing easy.
Color me surprised that the one of the top teams and one of the middle teams get into an absolute dogfight over there. Louisville goes 10-0 over Firestone. Lakeview Hubbard. Lakeview goes 9-0 over Hubbard. Keep your eyes on
Stay
that.
tuned. Hey, real quick, I want to talk about that West Branch game real quick because I think Bo Alsauce is a pitcher that not a lot of people talk about enough. And he pitched a shutout against Salem in that game, and he's just been lights out this year on the mound for West Branch. So that's a big win for them. Obviously, that game's taken very seriously. No matter what the sport, no matter what the records are, when you're playing Salem and you're in West Branch or opposite way, that's the game that you circle on your schedule. So for Bo to go on to that game, pitch a shutout, get the win, very impressive.
It's a big rivalry win, but on top of it, it's a big win against a really good program. And like you said, and throw records out the window. Salem is a quality baseball program too, and anytime you could go out there and beat the Quakers, it's definitely worth some respect, no doubt.
And I just want to take a second, Anthony. I'm glad you mentioned that because Coach Alsauce is that whole family is just baseball prone and they know how to pitch. Bo, I knew he was coming up through the ranks. And he does need, he's only, is he sophomore or junior? I know that group has a lot of sophomores and juniors. I know they're still young, but you're going to see a lot of their names the rest of this year and moving into next year. There's a good group there, and Coach Mullinex does a great job with them.
Yeah, moving over here, you got Warren G. Harding getting a Division I win over Lakeside there. I'll tell you what, as somebody coming from Ashtabula and coming down into the YSN territory and getting to learn these things, anybody who's watched me on this show or any shows, they know I love rivalry games, and I'm starting to buy in onto some of the ones down there. So sign me up for everyone I can get. I love it. If we could do rivalry games every week, I'd be all about it. Give me the personal ones. Give me the ones that matter there. Heading over here on the softball side, you got South Range continuing their winning ways, 12-0 over Struthers. Cognac getting a win here, big one over in the county, over County Folk Grand Valley. They're 14-8. You got Campbell Memorial going 17-3 over Cheney. The game that would not stop is locked up at 3-3 here on Thursday. And believe it or not, folks, it's still 3-3. They're going to get that one. That's the one we were talking about earlier in the show.
We talked a lot about the situation and when they're going to finish it. Let's just talk about this game. Ty, you were on the call there. I mean, Canfield takes the early 2-0. Well, I shouldn't say early. Takes the first lead 2-0. Fitch comes right back, and then in the 10th, Canfield takes another lead. Fitch comes right back. I mean, it was just two teams that honestly did not want to lose. I was watching it saying to myself, this feels like a state championship.
I was telling you two on Running Point just before that game, man. I told you that obviously the center stage was going to be in the circle, and that's exactly what it was. And I mean, Sydney Watts was what Sydney Watts has been all season long. But I really want to give props and flowers to Milena Toth. And I mean, she's been doing it all season. I've been calling some of her games too early on in the season. I've been praising her, and I've been telling everybody too on both sides, like, wait till you see Milena this year, because she has vastly improved. Good pitcher last year, phenomenal this year. And I mean, the strikeout rate was up. And I was saying too, it's a Fitch lineup that doesn't strike out a lot, but if she's able to ring up those Ks, I was saying something had to give, because of the way she strikes out batters and the way that Falcon lineup didn't strike out 20 of them through 10 innings or 9 innings of work, excuse me. She was electric. And I mean, honestly, she dominated throughout the entire game. Fitch was able to get some runs, and Sammy Severn, the one you called out, and you said that she was going to be a big factor, and she came up big too in that game tying run. But it was literally a case of, anything you can do, I could do better. And they matched each other. Both scored 2 in the 5th. Both scored 1 in the 9th. And it was literally one of those cases where who was going to blink third then at that case? Because it was who blinked first, who's blinking second, now who's blinking third. And it was a staring contest that wouldn't end.
The sun blinked.
The sun, Mother Nature was the one that had to pull the string on that one.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, this is one of those games that I'll be honest, I wasn't surprised that it was tied. I wasn't surprised that it was going to go as far into the game as it did. I was surprised that 3 runs even scored for either team, because with Toth and Watts on there, and you know, Fitch hits super well, and Canfield has been hitting the ball well. Those are like big time arms, electric. Watts is electric. You know what I mean? I was surprised that anybody was getting hit. So when I saw that 3-3, that was more surprising, I think, than the tie for me, because I expected this game to be honestly figured out by 1 run. I figured it was going to be a 0-1 type of game.
I said it after the game, and I'll say it again. Like, if you want to look at high level, like high division softball in this area and like what it's all about, you don't have to look any further than that game. Like the rivalry, the intensity, the crowd that was there lining up across the fence line too. I mean, it was a great atmosphere too, and that's what high division softball looks like in our area too. And 2 great teams to represent, no doubt.
And both teams' lineups are so well coached. The adjustments they made in the box throughout the game are why they were able to score a couple runs here and there. Haley Freedy, great example, who scored the run in the 9th, take the lead. You saw her move up in the box, which is kind of, Sydney Watts is throwing so fast. You want to stand as far back in the box as possible. But Haley Freedy says, okay, I'm going to try to catch that before it breaks up, before that rise ball gets up to my eyes. I'm going to go up in the box, and she got enough of it to go opposite field right past the first baseman for an RBI base hit. The adjustments like that these teams are able to make because of how well coached they are on both sides.
We talked about her story too, Ann, and that's the exemplification of determination is Haley Freedy too, getting all the way to her senior year and being able to start for this lineup and making a big impact. It seems like game in and game out, and she had a big hit in that one as well.
Big catch in left field too, if I remember.
Absolutely. Right. I mean, she's making the most out of this senior year, and she's having quite a run in this campaign, no doubt.
You know, you got to think that one of the things that comes into factor too, when you got pitchers like Watts and Toth in the circle there, sometimes when they're throwing that hard, all you got to do is get the bat on the ball, because it's coming so fast at you. As soon as you touch that thing, you got power that you didn't think you had, because there's a lot of force just coming at you.
2 of the best rise balls, I think, in the entire area that were on display for this night too. And I mean, like we said, 37 strikeouts, 17 for Watts, 20 for Toth. What more can you say, too? That things were working for them in the circle.
Crazy.
All right, moving on from that one, we're going to go over to Brookfield. Brookfield goes 10-0 over Garfield. Edgewood and Perry, this is a split in the series. Edgewood takes the first one. Perry gets revenge at the end of the year, 8-5 over Edgewood. The PV Lakers continue their winning ways, undefeated in NAC play. 2-1 win over Chalker.
Nice little pitcher's duel there.
It's a really good Shocker team that not a lot of people on Ysn might know about, but very good outside of the Ysn family.
LeBray is 11-1 over Liberty. West Branch and Salem, they go 5-4, so keeping it close on the softball side too.
Salem scored 4 runs in the top of the 6th, and then West Branch answered with 2 more to snatch away that rally. But that's a good game. Salem, that's the epitome we were talking about earlier throughout the records, right? Salem had 4 wins on the season. They didn't care. They came into this West Branch game. They won to beat the Warriors because it's that kind of rivalry, and they almost did it.
McDonald goes 7-4 over Mineral Ridge. You got Howland going going to lose to Boardman 5-2. South Range beats Struthers again 13-0. McDonald goes 16-1 over Mineral Ridge, and Howland again going to win here 3-2 over Boardman.
That was a walk-off in extras because it was a 5-inning doubleheader, so they walked it off in 6.
All right, heading over to Friday, day 2 of baseball, as we go Columbiana getting a win over Heartland Christian, and this is one of those wins that actually had an effect on the power rankings because Heartland Christian, with 9 wins coming into this game, a lot of points for beating them.
It's a good old Franken Bowl right there.
Mm-hmm. Again,
that's what you guys were. I was trying to figure out what the Franken Bowl was. Again, I'm learning. Lakefront guy. I'll be there next year. I'll know this terminology. Louisville. So this starts, Louisville wins the day before, and then Louisville unfortunately goes into a losing slide, and that's going to affect the power rankings as well. Uniontown Lake is going to go 8-4 over the Leopards.
That's another one of those. Uniontown Lake, anytime you mention that Federal League, they do good things up there too. Talent up and down that conference, and Uniontown Lake, another one of those teams that are always solid year in and year out.
South Range goes 8-4 over Struthers, grabbing another NE8 win there. United and Ursuline getting this one 3-0. And then Canfield and Fitch, part 2. Let's talk to Coach Niddle about what it was like going in there on Friday after you had already secured the bag on Thursday.
We were just saying it was almost like a carryover. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of offense. Michael Patelis did his job through a 2-hit shutout. Jack Knight for Austintown, did exactly what he had to do to keep us off balance. And, I gave him credit to everyone I talked to after the game because he's just that hard luck loser, and it could have went away. And, we did just enough. We did a couple small things there. Benny Slanker, who, is our 3-hitter. You don't expect him to bunt. And we saw the third baseman back and throw it down, go first and third. You got to do some little things like that in order, to get things going your way. And we did just enough. And, but like I said, for, my, tip of the cap to Jack Knight because he kept them in that game the entire time, and it's the way the ball bounces sometimes, and they kind of just went our way this year. Last year it bounced their way a lot. This year we got our break. So just a heck of a game. Like I said, it's always that way.
No shortage of arms in that conference either, Coach. It seems like every conference game you guys play, it's some type of ace that has had a phenomenal season this year.
100%. And and I'm happy for Jack. Like, I'm not happy that he lost, as he's a great kid, and but I'm happy the way he performed. And if it's going to be against anyone, I guess it might as well be against us. And as long as we come out on the right end,
happy for you. Not that happy, kid. Hold on.
If I got to be, but I know he's going to be going to play with Coach Nacera at Penn State Shenango. So I'm excited about him. And I talked to Coach Nacera. They're getting a good one there.
It seems like anytime you match any of those two AAC teams up, you're in for a good pitching duel, no matter the team. So it's always an exciting matchup.
No doubt.
It's always easier to give flowers when you get to keep the chocolates. This year, you got to keep the chocolate. Moving right along here, we're going to go Western Reserve getting a 1-run win over Springfield here, 9-8.
I'm going to try to explain how this game ended because it was a part of a doubleheader. This one went into extras, and I think it was 10 innings, if I'm not mistaken. A fake throw to third got a Springfield runner off the bag, and they got him on a pick throw to third, going back to the bag to win this game, and then they had to play another one. So this series went almost to midnight at Scene Park.
Late hours.
I'm going to tell you a funnier story with that. So our game, we were on scene 1, they were on scene 2, and I was talking to the coaches before. So they started their game. We finished our game. We had 2 games in before their first game even was completed. I looked out and said, they're still playing down there. Now, our game was played very quickly because it was, as we just said, it was a pitcher's duel. And I'm looking at the scoreboard. I said, they're still playing their 5 o'clock game. It was like 9 o'clock. I said, this is unreal. And then they play another for that. Oh, my goodness. That's crazy.
I'll tell you what, there must have been something in the air because I'll talk a little bit about my experience on Saturday, which turned out to be a long one up here. As we're going over, let's cover this Warren JFK game. Warren JFK gets right back on the winning side of things here. They go 8-0 over Champion. Jackson Milton collecting a lot of wins this year, and a big one right here, 5-4 over Waterloo. And the biggest upset, I think, of the week going to happen right here, folks, and that's Hubbard going back to their winning ways and beating the red-hot Lakeview Bulldogs. This is one that I had to double-check. I wasn't reading the wrong way in the group meeting.
All right, I'm going to say 30 seconds here. I know Kevin Hogue, who's the AD at Hubbard. I know the coaching staff at Hubbard. I'm going to tell you what, that is very underrated. Don't considered an upset, yes, because Lakeview 13-1 going in, whatever. But on paper, I think they are very equally matched. I know everyone thought of this as an upset. I didn't necessarily see it as an upset. Yes, when you look at records, kind of, and so forth. But I think if they play 10 times, they split. That's just I think Hubbard's getting a little underappreciated this year.
I think
Cam Carson, who's done a fantastic job at Lakeview. In fact, I talked to him tonight. We are going to play them on the 22nd. We just put it on schedule today. So we were supposed to play earlier this year. Mother Nature got us, but we are going to play. If we both win in the tournament, we're playing. So you heard it here first.
I think the game before this is the one that kind of made this feel like an upset because Lakeview won game 1, 9-0, and it seemed like they were just higher class and they just kind of went through. And then all of a sudden, Hubbard comes right back the next day, shakes the dirt off their face, gets up off the mat and says, hey, we're not going to lay down and die just because you beat us 9-0 in game 1.
Hubbard's had a lot of these kind of close wins too this season. And if that's one kind of experience that, teams are always, I feel like, asking for, it's experience in those close game scenarios before a tournament. And Hubbard's been in a lot of them and they've come out successful in a decent amount of close game scenarios.
A guy whose name's always popping up in their stories is Gabe Rusnak, who's having a great season for the Eagles.
Great arm.
This game here is the most NE8 result that I've seen all year because that's what happens. Not only are they very close because Hubbard, you look at a Hubbard and the reason why it's considered an upset, like we were talking about, it's the record, it's the day before, but Hubbard is, 11, 12, 13 win team. You know what I mean? That NE8, that's rough. That's good. Good on you, coaches.
Not easy. That's what it stands for. It's not Northeast. It's not easy.
Yeah, any of these 8 can win. That's what it stands for.
I like that one. That one's better.
Moving right along here. You got Canton going 6-1 over Southern. Maplewood going to fall to St. John 5-3 in some NAC play. That NAC, interesting. Their cross play actually counts toward their conference records. So, there's a Stars and Stripes division, but all of those games actually count toward your conference record. So that makes for some interesting conference endings. I'll tell you that. And Western Reserve going 9-4 over Springfield.
They were letting that one going extras. They were done.
No, they're like, no, we're
getting out of here before 2 a.m.
They hold them out. You had no choice.
And from the big games on the baseball side, we got to talk about an absolutely huge game that happened over on the softball side on Friday night, and that was McDonald and Western Reserve. This is one of those softball games that we talked about. These two teams on a crash course for each other, and McDonald going to get the W here, 2-1.
Give O'Brien her flowers, right, Ant?
McDonald was one loss in the conference. They dropped one to Springfield earlier this year. Western Reserve obviously undefeated, the 1 seed in Division 4. They were averaging 14.6 runs per game coming into this one. And Bella O'Brien struck out 18 of them and only allowed them to score 1 run. That's high-quality pitching from McDonald. But Hannah Heath, who is going on to play at Hiram next year for Western Reserve, just as locked down. The game-deciding run was the ground ball that went off of her foot and scored a run. So, I mean, that's just, Gary talked about earlier. Sometimes the ball drops your way, sometimes it doesn't. That's just one of the ones where it would have been a routine ground ball. 9 times out of 10, they get out of the inning, and it just bounced off of her foot, went away from the shortstop. McDonald scores a run, and they win 2-1.
And I'm curious because you see these two teams late in the season, so you're seeing them at some of their best right now. What do you think likelihood of each of these teams making a nice run in Division 4 looks like from what you saw in the circle and from both lineups?
I think they both have a good shot, especially McDonald, because they have the second arm in the circle they can throw if they ever get into trouble, because they have Bria McCombs, who pitched them all the way to a district championship last year before Bella O'Brien was on the roster. So she knows how to win in tournament games, and now you have a Bella O'Brien who can go and strike out 18 Western Reserve hitters, who is obviously a well-established offense. So both these teams have very good chances. Western Reserve's pitching isn't given enough credit because Hannah Heath is a college-level pitcher. She's going to go play at the next level. And even though they've been winning with offense a lot this year, they can pitch.
All right, moving along here, you're going to go Southern Local, 10-0 over East Canton. Columbiana goes 15-2 over East Palestine. Gilmore Academy gets a 1-run win over Howland, 9-8. Jackson Milton 13-3 over Badger. Sebring goes 14-2 over Latonia. Springfield goes 5-0 over Struthers. Maplewood goes 11-6 over St. John. Liberty 12-10 over Youngstown East. Toronto and United 9-2 in Toronto's favor. And that is our Friday's games. Now let's jump into some of these Saturdays.
Haley McCullough threw a no-hitter for Springfield in that game, by the way, against Struthers. It's 3rd of the year.
Yeah, she's only been doing big things all season too. I've been seeing her name pop up left and right on the network.
Well, never mind. We'll just talk about Saturday's games as the scores aren't in. I think on both sides, so that's all right.
You know what it was, Sam? Our scoreboard guy was a little bit occupied graduating. Congratulations to Brennan Miller, graduating from Youngstown State yesterday.
There you go. A very good reason.
He does a lot of behind-the-scenes work. B, congratulations if you're watching.
Absolutely.
And we'll forgive you for not having the scores in.
Yeah, I want to get into on that Saturday game. Let me pull that off the screen. So that's those Saturday games. I cover a doubleheader. It's supposed to be a nice, quick, even in and out game. You got St. John taking on Grand Valley, 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock. Game 1 goes 11 innings and ends on a 2-run shot hit by Anthony Severino, who is a freshman catcher for them this year. Both teams end up using between 3 and 4 pitchers in game 1. Okay, so before we go, I'm going to show I'm going to do it right now. I got to show you this. My first time ever getting to call a home run, and it sounds like the first time I've ever called a home run because you would have thought I was on my couch the way I lost my mind here. Kick and the pitch. Jumps on it, gives it a ride. It's in the center. And that is a walk-off home run way back. Anthony Severino answers the call, kisses
kiss it goodbye, folks. That's how you end it. 11 innings, and the sophomore Anthony Severino up, and away.
Absolute blast getting to see something like that. But I in the excitement of it, I have to clarify, Severino's a freshman. So again, it was a war of attrition out there. And then the second game, they get, and there was some talk about maybe going 5 innings and that sort of thing, because you're running out of arms, and these are Division 4 and 3, so it ain't like you got a whole bunch of guys to pull from. They opt to play 7 innings. St. John goes out in that second game, scores 7 runs in the 6th inning. Anthony Severino hits another 2-run RBI to end the game. It was just absolutely incredible on Saturday. One of the coolest days I've ever gotten to call on the broadcast. Super, super fun.
And Sam, you were giving me a background. That was like the biggest field in the county. It's dead center. It's a long ways away, and he hit it dead center. So he got all of that ball.
The biggest field in the biggest county to the deepest part of the field too.
So that is the big field you play out here. Every championship game gets played there for the last 30 years. Center field is 370, and he cleared center field like he was on a t-ball field. It was I've seen grown men that can't hit that far. And if you see this kid, he's a freshman and he looks like a freshman. Nobody's going to mistake this kid for a grown man. It was just a really cool afternoon.
I'm sure he didn't pull Bad News Bears and bring an index card that just says I'm a freshman.
By the way, you are selling yourself short on that call.
That was awesome.
Oh, well, thank you. It was one of those things I've been looking forward to. I've been looking forward to catching that first bomb out there, and boy, was that a blast, man. Baseball can be fun. People don't even know.
It's a roll of the dice too, as from that announcer's perspective, man. Baseball, softball games, you never know what you're gonna get. Doesn't matter really the matchups too. In some cases, it's a roll of the dice, man, and you never know what you're getting on that game.
I was joking earlier with you guys on weeks before, a softball home run call is so quick because when it leaves the yard, it leaves the yard really in a hurry. You only got like 2 seconds.
You gotta wait. The one thing you gotta wait for that umpire, because there was right. In this game big bats on both sides, because Grand Valley hit 2 off the fence themselves, on the corners. So, you really got to watch out for it. And, the eyes aren't what they used to. So I don't ever want to give credit for a home run that's not. But, yeah, it was really, really just a cool afternoon. Shout out to St. John for going out there. That makes them 10-4. They were one of the teams I talked about that, unfortunately just didn't have time to get games in going in, a couple weeks ago. They only had 5 games on the season. So really kind of put on their hard hats and got ready to work. But let's go to our first break. And then when we come back from our break, we're going to go. Hold on.
I'm out. I'm going to be around for the rest. I just wanted to come in. So go to break, do your rankings. I don't want to be around for that. I just want to thank you guys for what you are doing. I wanted to, definitely come on to thank you, Sam, and show support for what you guys are doing for all the kids in this area and what YSN does. And Sam, if it wasn't for you, Anthony, we know what you do. You do it all. Ty, I know you're the voice of Fitch, but a lot of people are getting to know Sam a lot more. They see him with football, but everything you've done with baseball, I just want to thank you. And that's why I wanted to stop in today and at least give a little bit of my time. But I want you guys to do the rest of the show. Kill it like you always do, and we'll see you guys come tournament time.
Gary, the door is always open for you to be on the show. Thanks for coming on. You're a legend, bud.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Thank you.
See you so much. So we're going to go to our first. When we come back, we're going to go over power rankings, softball, baseball, and the starting 9. And then we're going to dip our toes into the tournament, depending on what the time is going to allot us. We'll be right back, folks.
Shopping for a vehicle online should be easy and worry-free. Introducing Merge from Greenwood Chevrolet, a completely new way to buy a car that combines the convenience of shopping online with the personal touch and expertise that Greenwood is known for. With Merge, shopping is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Choose a vehicle from our pre-owned inventory, build a deal that fits your needs, and finalize the deal with our online buying team. That's car buying in a new lane. Visit greenwoodchevrolet.com and let us go the extra mile for you.
News doesn't stop after the sun goes down. Sometimes you just have to hustle to get it. At 21 News, no matter how far it is, no matter what it takes to get there, we're working to bring you the best stories and the freshest content at 11 p.m. with the context and clarity that makes it worth staying up for, no matter what time it is. 21 News at 11 with me, Erin Simonek, and Derek Steyer.
21 News at 11, news that's worth your time.
All right, and we are back. It's time, folks. You know what? This week, in the interest of some drama, I think let's start with softball. Let's start with the softball Power 20, and jump right into that. As you know, what it's been all jumps for baseball. There's some jumps this week in softball this week as well. So
there are some jumps, and the reality is, some teams got to play more games than others with the weather. And when you play games, you get computer points. When you don't play games, you don't get any computer points. So, I mean, you don't get as many. You still get some extra wins if your opponents that you already beat are winning. So you do get points, but you don't get as many.
Let me just speak on behalf of that second place team beating a phenomenal Brecksville Broadview Heights Bees team and the Archbishop Hoban Knights. And Faith Porter had the screwball going, and when that screwball is going, it is breaking down and away to righties, down and into lefties, and it is a ground ball out or pop fly machine. And when she's got that pitch going, she is unstoppable, and she really did a good job blanking a very good lineup from the Bees.
To run down the whole list, Fitch stays number 1, but I'm telling you guys, it was close. Hoban took full advantage of both Canfield and Fitch being idle, and it was not by much that Fitch holds on to that one spot. 3.5 computer points separate those two. Hoban at 2, Canfield at 3. Champion is at 4. They moved down from 3 last year, but that's just last week. This is because Hoban moved into the top 3 with a really good week. Champion had a really good week too, with 2 wins over North Royalton up there in Division 1 on the road. South Range is 5. Columbiana stays at 6. We have Brookfield at 7. Jefferson at 8. Howland at 9. Edison at 10, Pymatuning Valley at 11, Lakeview is at 12, Poland 13, Boardman is at 14, McDonald goes back into the power rankings this week at 15, LeBray is 16, Springfield 17, Western Reserve 18, United 19, and Mohawk is 20. Those two teams were tied, and the win percentage was the tiebreaker. So United and Mohawk tied in computer points. Down
the
there
Keystone State remakes an appearance here now on the softball side of things. So Mohawk Warriors, congratulations.
Yeah, the one I want to talk about, surprise, surprise, I got to talk about Jefferson. 11 straight wins for the Lady Falcons. And I think, in baseball and softball both, it's not about, so much how many you win. It's when you're winning. And to be that red hot, to go into tournament play, I think there's somebody that could potentially make some noise. They've got a lot of bats. They've got a great pitcher in Sammy Speakman. They're really kind of set to be successful out there. You got 12 home runs, seven different hitters for them. They've really been a fun team to kind of watch and keep track of, and they're starting to believe in themselves. Ty, I do want to ask you about Hoban. I've heard a lot about Faith Porter. For when we're talking going into the tournament, what are they going to have to rely on? Is it going to be mostly pitching, or are they going to have some of these bats step up?
See, the thing with Hoban is the way that they've won a lot this season. They have potential to produce power, but they have a ton of speed up and down their lineup. They have the ability of just laying down bunts and getting 2 or 3 infield singles, and before you know it, bags are loaded, and you're behind the 8 ball. But yeah, I think, in my opinion, when I've seen it, it's a pitching first team, and Faith Porter is one of the best. They go against lineup after lineup, big time lineups too, and she has competed and come out on top of most of the matchups she's had with them. So I think they're going to go as far as her arm takes her. I think their lineup has the capability of producing the runs needed to make a deep run, but they're one of those teams where it's like they score that 3 to 4 run margin, and they have a great chance of beating a lot of teams that they face.
Nyla Durham is a stud down there in Hoban. If you haven't heard of her or seen her name, you better keep an eye on that as well. I think she's one of the most consistent bats in that lineup.
Absolutely. And defensively, too, at short, she's phenomenal. Lacey Quarles in center, too. Robin Ryan at first. Sydney Conti, too. Give her all of her
She's
flowers.
the power. Like when you say power, it's Sydney
She's
Conti.
the power, too, but a phenomenal defensive catcher as well. I mean, they have great defensive players all around the infield and outfield scattered around in key positions, too. That center field, shortstop, first catcher, key positions that are really talented defenders. And that's not saying anything else about the rest of them. They're great, solid defense all the way around. And I think that's what Hoban's going to be looking at, pitching and defense. Get enough runs when you need them, but pitching and defense is what's going to win them a lot of games.
And what's interesting, we have one more week of power rankings before we just, next week will be the final week because it's going to be tournament time. So this is like the last push. And we know Canfield and Fitch are hopefully going to play each other before next Sunday, at least once. So that's gonna decide a lot. And that might some other teams that are in the top 5 or 6 room to get up into that top 3 by the end of the power ranking.
I like that next row of 3 a lot too. Champion, South Range, and Columbiana, and all those teams have a chance of wrecking havoc too once playoffs start.
South Range.
You know what? You took the words right out of my mouth, Ty. I was gonna say, get the big logos out of here for right now. Of all the rest of our Power 20, of the 17 teams, what team do each of you guys see making the longest run in the tournament?
Champion. I know that's easy. They're 4, but Gabby Gradishar is just unreally good. I mean, they went up to North Royalton, guys, who's a big Division I team, a very good Division I team. Gradishar shut them out in the circle and hit 2 home runs off of them.
And to speak on like their bats too, like, and for them, for the amount of Division I teams that they played, like I know that everyone was saying like, yeah, their stats are a little inflated. Look at the teams they're playing, but no, look at the teams they're playing now, and look at what their bats are continuing to do. It's it's a dangerous lineup, but yeah, I mean, surprise, surprise, Cheryl Weaver gets another ace in the hole too, or ace in the circle, I guess you could say, and Gabby Gradishar that has just picked things up and is looking to continue that champion legacy.
Someone who I want to bring up that is a little bit further down, maybe not as easy of a thing to say, maybe a little bit of a hotter take. Boardman, I think, has a good chance to make a run into districts. Last year, they were 1 run away from beating Walsh in the district championship game, lost that game 2-1. They have 3 pitchers they can throw at you in Gabby Safara, Natalie Davis, and Tori Strines. Their hitting is starting to wake up. It was a little bit sluggish in the first couple weeks of the season. All their averages are starting to heat up. I think Boardman, they know how to win the district. They're well coached. I think they can make a run.
I mean, look at their schedule too. One of the toughest. Yeah, I mean, and the schedule that they faced is definitely going to prep them for the tournament. There's nobody that they're going to see that's really going to surprise them come tournament time.
And they still have one matchup with Canfield this week as well to prepare them for that tournament.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go out on a limb here. And I'm going to go a little bit lower in there. I think that win that McDonald gets over Western Reserve is going to play huge in both confidence and experience, meeting a team that's undefeated and is going to push you to your limit, and being able to get that this late in the season. I think it's going to work well in their benefit. I believe it's Bella O'Brien, I believe, is the pitcher out there. When you've got somebody like that that's getting that kind of swagger this late in the season, watch out for McDonald.
Having that 1-2 punch at pitcher can really spell success. And I mean, I'm talking like regional type of success too, and further beyond, because having that 1-2 punch is dangerous in softball. We've seen plenty of teams, if they got that 1-2 punch, go on deep runs. We remember Champion had that 1-2-3 punch, and what it got for them.
Got them 3 straight state championships, and the 1 year they didn't allow a single run in their entire tournament run.
That's what it's a pitching type of sport on both sides of the diamond, man.
Who's your one team, real quick, before we get to baseball? You didn't pick a team.
I mean, looking at it, I think Sam stole it, but I'm looking at McDonald, honestly. I think McDonald's one of those teams. After that win against Western Reserve, I was really impressed. I was texting you after that game too, and give Bella O'Brien her flowers, because that's a big-time win against a rival opponent too, right before tournament time. I mean, she's earning her stripes before big-time games start here in the tournament.
All right, guys, we're going to jump right into the baseball Power 20 this week. And Imagine that. The Knights of Akron, they're going to find their way to the top. We saw it. We thought it was going to happen. And this week it happens because Hoban is not going out there and just winning games. They're winning games against good teams with tons and tons of wins. They lead all of our YSN teams in opponent wins going into this week. It played a huge part. Not only that, the fact that they're Division I, the teams that they are beating, give them the extra push there. So they're 1. Lakeview is at 2. South Range is at 3. That cannot remain because those two are on a crash course for each other. LeBray going to go down to 4. Canfield at 5. Canfield actually has the most wins or gets the most points in the division bonus this week because of those wins over Fitch. Actually give them a huge push. West Branch at 6. Hubbard took advantage of that W there, going all the way up to 7. Louisville at 8. Fitch at 9. Garrettsville Garfield, who has quietly remained in that top 10 all year. 10. Crestview at 11. Warren JFK at 12. Ursuline holding steady at 13. McDonald at 14. Poland at 15. Jackson Milton, who's another team a lot of people are overlooking because they're a Division IV team. 14 wins for the Blue Jays at 16. Edison at 17. Howland at 18. Edgewood benefits from everybody losing this week, jumping back into the top 20 at 19. And Struthers is at 20. This baseball power ranking has been up and down all year, and I expected nothing less this week.
And I mean, one name that seems to have made their name present on this list now, the Ursuline Irish. We said it was only a matter of time before the Irish started jumping up on this list and climbing, and that lo and behold, there's Ursuline's baseball club once again rearing their face on this list and looking to make another deep run come tournament time.
Yeah, Louisville, unfortunately, they go into a three-game slide this week. You know, it's been a tough week. They do get the 1 win, and that kind of drops them out of that contention for, we'll call it the big logo status.
That University School win that Hoban got was huge too. And guys, looking at the schedule too, University School beat St. Ed's 16-5 this season. So, if that tells you the type of teams that University School is playing and beating too, and that's a big time win for the Knights too, and that's why you see them jump up there as far as they did.
And for the Bray fans that are sitting there saying, what did we do? We didn't lose. We're still where we're at. And we talked about is this one of those weeks where Hoban got more games in, won, and they got a couple of big wins. I mean, weather is not fair, but the computer rankings don't care about your rainouts.
We're just inputting numbers and getting what the computer spits out.
Sometimes it's not if you win. Sometimes it's who you beat.
Yeah.
And that's going to be probably, I think, the biggest story of this week is who you beat. That, Ty said it perfectly. That win over University School is huge. And point-wise, it's huge. They're a big school. They beat a bunch of big teams. It's a huge win. And South Range and Lakeview, it's awesome that they're next to each other, but they're not friendly neighbors. Those two are going to be knocking each other off of the cliff there soon. I'll go like I did kind of with softball. We won't talk about tournament time because we haven't really gotten into that. But when it comes to next week, we've got some more power rankings. Who do you think becomes a big emblem next week? Because I don't think it's going to be Lakeview and South Range both. I think one of them will remain.
Well, I think obviously LeBray has a big chance to just pop back into the top rankings. But someone outside of the top, 5, which is an easy conversation to have. I think honestly West Branch has a chance. I mean, I know the first rankings we put up, they were 1 and now they're 6, but they still have big games under their horizon. And I think West Branch could be a team that's really talked about late in the season.
Looking at it, I always feel like the Louisville Leopards are just a ball club that is always a couple of games away from just getting red hot. Look at what they did last year and how far they were able to ride that streak last year. And I mean, they always have a sense of just peaking at the perfect time. And I tell you what, these games that they're going to have coming up, they're going to have against Marlington, and they're going to be playing West Branch this week too. So there's some big games on the Leopard schedule, and I've seen that community show up and show out. And if the weather's holding up, you're going to see a lot of Leopard faithful showing up to these games. I'm going to say Louisville for a pretty decent week before the tournament starts to get them on red hot streaks.
West Branch with 15 wins. If Louisville gets that win over West Branch, that is 100% going to change.
Carrollton, too. They've played Carrollton, looking at their schedule, too, on Thursday. So you get the West Branch Wednesday, Carrollton Thursday. That's 2 15-win teams back-to-back. So I think there's a lot of room for Louisville to jump here, no doubt.
And listen, I promise I am not pandering, and I'm not just saying that because he was on the show tonight. But I look at the jumps that Canfield has made, and I really think my guess next week is whichever team wins it out between Lakeview and Court. I think Canfield will replace that team in the top 3. But you're right, Ty. Louisville has a way. They drop down, but they can hop right back in because all the teams on their schedule have 12-plus wins. They're Division I. I mean, there's so many things. And then you got to take into account the little bonuses, too. Are you first in your conference? There's a point. Are you run ruling people? Couple points to be had there as well. So I think, it's going to be interesting next week.
It's exciting, too. It's an exciting week for baseball. A lot of these teams in peak form, too, so best time to catch them.
I'm just trying to look at LeBray's upcoming schedule because I know they have some games left, big ones as well. I mean, McDonald is on their schedule, who's in the power rankings on coming up this week. They're going to have Western Reserve in 2 games against Maplewood. So, LeBray was one last week. I don't think it's crazy to think that they can be in the big logos by the end of the power.
Especially just right on the outside, just right on that outside looking in. Another good week for the Vikings, and they have a good shot, no doubt.
Well, you know what else is kind of crazy about this is it's not always about who you beat that week either. The teams you beat, you need them to keep winning.
Right.
Those win totals are recalibrated every week. So if you have a team that goes out there, and Hubbard is a prime example of this, people who got early wins on Hubbard as they continued to win, they're getting the benefits of that too. So let's jump right in as we are kind of up against it here. We're going to go right into the softball starting 9 this week.
All right, let's look at it. And leading things off, someone that hasn't been on the starting 9 yet this year, which is a shocker, but she is a phenomenal hitter. Going to go play for Maryland University in the Big Ten after she's done at Louisville. It is Maddie Benson, 4 for 4, a home run, 4 RBIs, 4 runs scored, 4 everything. Let's just go 4 for 4. 16-1 win over Apple Creek Waynedale for Maddie Benson. Then we have Mandy Herman, someone that Sam knows pretty well from Pymatuning Valley, 2 for 4, a home run, 4 RBI, 2 runs scored, 13-3 win over Warren Harding, which was a big Division I win for Pymatuning Valley. And that's 7 wins, a 7-win Warren Harding team too. No slouch there. Torrey Firth had a big day for United on Saturday. 7 innings pitched, 2 hits, 16 Ks. And then on offense, a home run, her 100th career hit in the 3-1 win over Division II Crestwood for the Eagles. How about Abigail Metters from Champion, 3 for 4, 5 RBI plus the complete game pitch. Just giving up 1 earned run, 5 strikeouts in the 11-1 win over North Royalton. Big day for her. And she's kind of not under the radar a little bit. There's second pitcher. That 1-2 punch the Champion can throw it.
Well, because that first pitcher, I think that first pitcher they got is pretty decent.
I think so.
It's only what the Flashes have done too that spelled success. 9 times over for state champion, 6 times for Cheryl Weaver's run. Like it's a lot of state titles.
Got enough for 2 hands, man. Bella O'Brien is next for McDonald. This is her game against Western Reserve. The complete game, 18 Ks, 4 hits, no walks, obviously no earned runs, 2-1 win over Western Reserve. Bodie Beckwith, another player that Sam knows pretty well up there in Jefferson, 4 for 5, 3 RBI, 3 runs scored in the 19-6 win over Girard. Max Stowe, where Lakeview went 3 for 4 with a home run, 4 RBI, 2 runs scored in their 8-1 win over Chalker. We have Gianna Pauline, someone that doesn't get talked about a lot in that South Range lineup, but had a big day against Struthers, going 2 for 2 with a walk, 3 RBI, and a 12-0 win over the Wildcats there. And then Hallie McCullough on senior night in Springfield throws her third no-hitter of the season. She had 16 Ks in those 7 innings pitched, only 1 walk, and she was also 1 for 3 at the plate. That was a 5-0 win over Struthers for Springfield on senior night, and it's her third no-hitter of the season.
Congrats to all these players too in this lineup. I mean, great weeks for them, great games for them too, and these are all big time matchups too. A lot of them inside of conference play as well.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of these is impressive, and I'm not downgrading any over the other. The Bella O'Brien one sticks out to me. It's 18 strikeouts against an undefeated Western Reserve.
Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous, folks. That's ridiculous.
An offense that was averaging 14.5 runs per game.
That's ridiculous. I've said it before, and I will always stand by that. If I could take the top 5 from our Power 20, put my team together, I would be Woody Harrelson from White Men Can't Jump. I would go around the country just hustling for money. We'd be undefeated.
Yeah, just imagine what our All-Star game's going to look like at YSU in the coming months.
What is that? 86% of the outs that she registered were by way of the K. Like, I mean, and that's a way you stop a lineup that's averaging 14 runs is you stop it at the plate. Don't let them put the ball in play.
The biggest one was striking out Allie Jones 4 times, because if you let that girl put the ball in play, 9 times out of 10, she's going to run to first because she's that fast.
She's going to go to first, have a cup of coffee, and watch the whole Godfather trilogy by the time most people can even get a throw.
You make the throw to first, she's sitting there with a cup. Oh, you make it in time? We'll take you.
All right, let's head over to the baseball side of things here as we go this week's starting lineup. And Anthony Severino, the freshman phenom from St. John, is going to start it with his walk-off home run, 2-run shot in their 4-3 win over Grand Valley. Again, I know it's looking at it with rose-colored glasses. It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen in person. Especially because I've never actually seen a home run hit out of Smith Field here. You got to come here to see it. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. Nick Lewis from Howland goes 4 for 4 and gets a home run. 5 RBIs on the day for him in the 10-0 win over a very good Heartland Christian team. Zach Root from Louisville, 2 for 3 with a triple. 2 RBIs, 1 run scored in this one in a 10-1 win over Firestone, another big team up there. Nevin Halen from United, 17 strikeouts in 5.2 innings pitched. He goes 1 for 3, 2 walks, 3 runs scored in a 7-0 win over Wellsville.
That 17 strikeouts also a program record.
5.2 innings is 17 outs, so he just only struck out everyone.
Everybody.
Every out that he got was a strikeout. So good morning, good afternoon, good night.
Will Givens over at Hoban goes 2 for 5 with 1 RBI, but that RBI comes in walk-off fashion in a 2-1 win over University after 11 innings.
He hit that one into the outfield too, and he was just like, I'll see my big logo on the top 3 now. Thank you very much. Big win.
And we'll take it away, man.
Michael Patelis over at Canfield, he goes complete game shutout, 11 strikeouts for him. 2 walks, 2 hits in a 1-0 win over Fitch. And, Coach Niddle was just talking about him stepping up in that very tough game of what I foresee to be coming for years to come between Canfield and Fitch, or it's probably been established. I don't know. Alex Yoder over at Hubbard goes 1 for 2 with 2 RBIs in a 6-5 win over Lakeview. This is a big game. It's a big time for him to show up, and he gets the job done. Tom Groner over at Ursuline goes complete game shutout, 6 strikeouts with 1 walk and 2 hits. 1 error in a 9-0 win over United.
Another quality arm out of that Irish program. They'll be looking to lean on him going into the tournaments.
And then Anthony Perry over at West Branch goes 3 RBIs with 1 run scored in a 14-0 win over Garfield. We were going to jump into some tournament stuff this week, but the show ran a little bit long, so you'll have to tune into the daily shows so we can talk about it.
We're talking about that on every day on the Running Point. Ty, you muted yourself, bud.
You only got to wait, 12 hours to listen to your beautiful voice, Sam?
Right. Sam's
I mean, it's not that long of a wait. Get a good night's sleep and get right back at it.
talk about a cup of coffee.
Yeah, that's it. Get your morning cup of Joe with this guy right here. But yeah, that's going to be this week's show. It was super great week of softball. I was worried. I think as were you guys. We talked about it in the group chats and stuff like this. Man, what are we going to do this week? It's rainy. It's terrible. We got tournaments right on top of us. And as always, the YSN faithful, they show up, and it was a heck of a week. Probably one of the most exciting weeks that we've had all year this year.
A lot of long games that went in multiple extra innings. I don't think I've seen a week like this where we see multiple games just go 3-4 extra innings in 1 week.
Let's hope for good weather going into this week, and then let's get a lot of games in for this next week.
Quick reminder that tournament games will be on the network this week, and they are the pay-per-view wall will be up for tournament games, just like for basketball and football. So one payment of $9.99 will get you access to every tournament game that'll be on the network that night. If it's a regular season game, because I know softball is still playing regular season this week, it's still free. But if it's a tournament game you want to watch this week, there is going to be pay-per-view put in place for those tournament games.
All right, before we go, guys, anytime big time matchups you kind of want to plug or give people an insider, tell them to get their butt there and make sure they don't miss it.
I mean, the one I'm excited for too, it's a regular season matchup. It's Baseball Friday, Canal Park, Akron St. Vincent St. Mary versus Archbishop Hoban. It's the Holy War. The first time I'm going to get a chance to see the Akron Holy War, so I'm very excited about that one.
All right, I have two. One, I am just extremely jealous of Ty because he gets to go do Tuesday's game for Hoban softball. They're playing Triway. If you don't know, Triway has Carter Wechtel, who is a commit to Georgia Tech. So I would love to watch her play live. Can't. Ty's got the call, so you can see her on YSN. That's going to be a great game between Division III Triway, who won a state championship in Division II last year, has one of the best pitchers in the state, period. Power 5 commit, just a junior, in Carter Wechtel. Not just saying that.
Plugging her, no doubt.
Not being biased, I swear. But then the other one, of course, is going to be in McDonald on Tuesday. MVAC championship between Western Reserve and McDonald, round 2. Both of them tied now at the top of the conference, so it's winner take all in McDonald at Woodland Park.
I got 2 this week, and they're right there at the beginning. Monday, I'm going over to Edgewood as they host Berkshire. It's a must-win for Edgewood. If they lose this game to Berkshire, any hopes that they have for that CVC division title, out the window. So it's basically right before the tournament, they're going to get a chance in a high-stress game there. And then on Tuesday, St. John and Matthews is going to decide who wins the NAC in boys baseball. So really, really excited about those 2 games. I'm really excited about the playoff softball that's coming up this week. Can't wait to see how that's going to go. And make sure you guys don't miss the Diamond Roundup next week because we got a lot of good stuff happening this week and a lot of material to cover.
We're excited for it, Sam, too. I'm excited to see another roundup of the power rankings and the Power 9.
We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for joining.